Hey everyone, Elizabeth here. The Last Laugh delivers stories that leave you speechless. If you're here for it, hit subscribe and let's go.
The baby shower invitation arrived on a Saturday morning, nestled between credit card offers and grocery store coupons. Pale pink cardstock with silver lettering announced, "A celebration of life, for my sister Rebecca's first child." At the bottom, in italics that somehow felt pointed, "Positive energy only. Let's keep this day perfect." I stared at that last line for a long time. In our family's vocabulary, positive energy had become code for, "Don't mention anything Rebecca finds uncomfortable," which over the past 2 years had grown to include my entire existence. My phone buzzed. "Cousin Jennifer, so excited for tomorrow. Everyone's coming early to help set up. See you at 10. I didn't respond. There was no point explaining that helping set up would require me to stand for extended periods, lift boxes, arrange chairs, and do all the things that had become impossible since the accident. 2 years ago, a distracted driver ran a red light and T-boned my car. The impact compressed my spine, shattering the L4 and L5 vertebrae. 3 surgeries later, I had titanium rods, 8 screws, and a bone graft holding my lower back together. Dr. Brennan, my spinal surgeon, had been clear. The fusion was holding, but the hardware was still integrating. Any significant impact or twisting motion could dislodge the screws or crack the graft. Recovery would take a full year, possibly longer. That was 8 weeks ago. My most recent surgery to correct complications from the first 2 procedures. But my family had stopped listening to medical explanations around month 6. To them, wheelchairs and limitations were choices. Weakness. Trauma. Other people recover from car accidents, my mother had said during Christmas dinner, her voice sharp with disappointment. They don't make it their entire personality. Rebecca had been worse. My younger sister by 3 years, she'd always been the golden child. Beautiful, successful, married to a corporate lawyer. My accident had inconveniently coincided with her engagement, and she'd made it clear that my medical needs were overshadowing her important life events. "I'm not saying you're faking," she told me after her wedding, where I'd watched from a wheelchair at a back table. "I'm saying you're not trying hard enough. Mind over matter, you know? Maybe if you focused less on your limitations and more on healing, you'd actually get better." Now she was 7 months pregnant, glowing with that effortless perfection she'd always possessed, and I was the damaged older sister who refused to just get over it. I almost didn't go to the shower. But Dr. Brennan had encouraged me to maintain family connections when possible. "Isolation makes recovery harder," he'd said during my last appointment. "Social support matters. Just be smart about your boundaries." So I'd agreed to attend. Not to help set up. Just to be there for the gift opening, then leave. What I didn't tell Dr. Brennan was that I'd invited him as my +1. It wasn't unusual. He'd suggested months ago that having a medical professional present at family events might help them understand my limitations weren't psychological. He'd attended Thanksgiving as my guest, though my family had assumed he was a date and whispered about how I was trying to trap a doctor. But Dr. Brennan wasn't just being kind. He was documenting. After my mother had tried to force me to walk upstairs at that Thanksgiving dinner, resulting in a pain flare-up that required emergency medication, he'd started keeping detailed records of my family's well-meaning interventions. "What they're doing could be classified as medical abuse," he told me quietly in his office. "Forcing someone with spinal hardware to perform activities against medical advice, hiding or discouraging medication, dismissing documented pain, these aren't harmless. They're dangerous." I'd thought he was overreacting. But I'd said yes when he offered to come to the baby shower. Just in case. The shower was held at my aunt's house, a sprawling colonial with a perfectly manicured lawn and a backyard made for Pinterest photos. When Dr. Brennan and I arrived at 2 p.m., the time listed on the invitation, cars already lined both sides of the street. "They started early," I said quietly as Dr. Brennan retrieved my wheelchair from the trunk. "Without telling you." It wasn't a question. Inside, the house was transformed into a pastel wonderland. Pink and white balloons clustered in every corner. A dessert table showcased a 3-tier cake decorated with tiny edible booties. A gift table overflowed with elaborately wrapped boxes. And everywhere, standing, moving, laughing, were my relatives. Cousins arranging flowers. Aunts setting out champagne flutes. My mother directing traffic with the authority of a general commanding troops. Not one of them was sitting. Rebecca stood in the center of it all, radiant in a cream maternity dress, accepting compliments and touching her belly with practiced grace. She looked like a lifestyle blogger's fever dream. She saw me in the doorway and her smile flickered. "Emma, you made it." Her voice was bright, but her eyes traveled to the wheelchair with unmistakable irritation. "Oh, you brought that? My mobility aid?" I kept my voice neutral. "Yes. It's just such a small space with so many people." She glanced at my mother, who was approaching with champagne glasses. "Mom, maybe Emma should stay in the living room where there's more room for her chair." Translation: hide in a corner where we don't have to see you. "Actually," Dr. Brennan said pleasantly, stepping forward, "Emma will need clear pathways to the bathroom and exits. It's a basic accessibility requirement." Rebecca's gaze slid to him, finally registering his presence. "And you are?" "Dr. Michael Brennan. Orthopedic spine surgeon. Emma's physician." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "Her physician?" My mother's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. "You brought your doctor to a baby shower?" "I invited him," I said evenly. "As my guest." Rebecca's face flushed. "This is supposed to be a celebration, Emma. Not a medical consultation." "I'm here as a friend," Dr. Brennan said smoothly. "Though I am always monitoring Emma's condition. Her spinal fusion is still in critical healing phase." "Of course it is," Rebecca muttered, just loud enough to hear. "Everything is always critical with Emma." Cousin Jennifer appeared with a tray of appetizers. "Emma, come sit." "Oh." She looked at the wheelchair, then at the crowded seating area where folding chairs were packed tightly together. Maybe you could just stand for a bit? Just while we're doing games." "She can't stand," Dr. Brennan said before I could respond. "Not for extended periods. Her L4-L5 fusion." "We know about the fusion," my mother interrupted, her voice sharp. "We've all heard about the fusion. Multiple times." "Apparently not enough," Dr. Brennan replied, his tone still pleasant but his eyes hardening. "Or you'd have provided accessible seating." An uncomfortable silence spread through the room. Aunts exchanged glances. Cousins suddenly found their phones fascinating. Rebecca's hand tightened on her champagne flute. "This is my baby shower. Could we please not make it about Emma's situation?" "Her situation," Dr. Brennan repeated slowly. "You mean her medical disability resulting from a severe spinal injury?" "I mean her constant need for attention," Rebecca snapped, the careful facade cracking. "Everything has to revolve around her limitations. Her needs. Her pain. Do you know she missed half my wedding because she claimed the chair was too uncomfortable? That she left my bachelorette party after an hour because she was too tired? That she's made my entire pregnancy about her recovery timeline." The room had gone completely silent now. Everyone stared. "Rebecca," I said quietly. "That's not fair. Isn't it?" She turned to face me fully, one hand on her hip, the other cradling her belly, a perfect picture of righteous maternal fury. "You've been in that chair for 2 years, Emma. 2 years. At some point you have to wonder if she's actually trying to get better or if she just likes the sympathy." My hands gripped the wheelchair armrests. "You think I like this? I think you like being the center of attention." Rebecca's voice rose. "I think you like making everyone accommodate you. Walk on eggshells around you. Rearrange events for you. And honestly, I think a lot of it is in your head." "Rebecca." My mother's voice held a warning, but it was weak. She wasn't disagreeing. None of them were. Dr. Brennan stepped slightly in front of my wheelchair. "Mrs. Chambers, what you're suggesting is not only medically inaccurate, it's—" "With all due respect, doctor," my Aunt Carol interrupted, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "we've known Emma her whole life. We know when she's being dramatic. She's always been sensitive. Overly emotional," another aunt agreed. "She cried when she didn't make cheerleading," Cousin Jennifer added. "In high school." "This isn't about cheerleading," I said, my voice shaking now. "This is about a spinal injury that required 3 surgeries and you've milked it for everything it's worth," Rebecca finished. "Honestly, Emma, everyone's getting tired of it. The wheelchair, the pain medication, the constant doctor appointments. Life goes on." The rest of us have to work, have families, handle our problems without making them everyone else's problem. She gestured around the room. Look at this. I'm 7 months pregnant, I work full-time, I'm planning a nursery, and I still manage to organize this entire shower. But you can't even stand up for a few hours? You can't even help your own sister celebrate without bringing your doctor as some kind of chaperone. He's here because you can't function without someone validating your victim status. Rebecca's voice had gone cold. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You need witnesses to your suffering. You need someone to tell everyone how hard your life is. Dr. Brennan's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Mrs. Chambers, I strongly suggest you stop talking. Why? Rebecca challenged. Because I'm telling the truth, everyone's too polite to say. Emma, I love you. But this needs to stop. You need to stop. Stop what? I whispered. Stop being disabled. Stop acting like you are. Rebecca set down her champagne glass with decisive force. You know what? I'm going to prove it. Right now. Rebecca, don't. My mother started, but she didn't sound concerned. He sounded curious. Rebecca walked toward me with determined steps. The crowd parted. Dr. Brennan moved to block her, but she pushed past him. You want everyone to believe you can't walk? Rebecca's hand closed around my arm. Fine. Let's see. Don't touch me, I said, panic rising in my chest. Rebecca, seriously, don't. Stand up, Emma. He pulled hard. Come on. Stand up and prove you actually need this chair. Mrs. Chambers, stop immediately. Dr. Brennan grabbed for Rebecca's arm, but she yanked harder, her face flushed with determination. Just stand up. She hauled me upward with surprising strength, one hand on my arm, the other gripping the back of my dress. The pain was instantaneous and catastrophic. My spinal fusion, still healing, still fragile, held together by titanium and hope, was suddenly bearing weight it couldn't support. The vertebrae shifted. The hardware pulled. Something in my lower back felt like it tore. I screamed. Not a gasp. Not a cry. A full-throated, animalistic scream of agony that echoed off the walls and silenced every voice in the room. My legs buckled immediately, not because I was being dramatic but because the nerve signals simply stopped transmitting. I collapsed forward, would have hit the hardwood floor face first if Dr. Brennan hadn't caught me. Call 911, he shouted, lowering me carefully while supporting my spine. Do not move her. Rebecca stumbled backward, her face white, her hands still extended where she'd been gripping me. I didn't, she's faking, she has to be. Dr. Brennan didn't look at her. He was too busy carefully palpating my spine, his face grim. Emma, on a scale of 1 to 10 pain level? 15, I gasped. Tears streamed down my face. I can't feel my left leg. Okay. His voice was calm, clinical, but his hands were shaking slightly as he pulled out his phone. Don't move. At all. What's happening? My mother demanded. Emma, stop being dramatic. She's not being dramatic. Dr. Brennan's voice could have cut glass. Your daughter just forcibly moved a patient with a healing spinal fusion. Emma, can you wiggle your toes? I tried. My right foot responded weakly. My left foot was silent. Right foot barely. Left foot no. Dr. Brennan closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his professional mask was back in place, but underneath it I could see fury. He turned to Rebecca, still holding his phone to his ear. Mrs. Chambers, what you just did could have permanently paralyzed your sister. I didn't, she's always. Rebecca's voice broke. She's fine. She's faking. She has to be faking. She's not faking. Dr. Brennan's finger swiped across his tablet screen, which he'd somehow retrieved from his jacket. He turned it to face the room. These are Emma's postoperative X-rays from 8 weeks ago. Do you see these? These are titanium rods stabilizing her L4 and L5 vertebrae. These are surgical screws. This is a bone graft. This hardware is holding her spine together while it heals. He swiped to another image. This is what a healthy fusion looks like after 6 months. The bone has integrated. The hardware is stable. The patient can return to normal activities. Another swipe. This is Emma's spine as of 2 weeks ago. See this gap? The fusion isn't complete. The bone graft is still vulnerable. Any significant force, any twisting motion, Any sudden weight-bearing could dislodge the hardware or crack the graft. He looked up at Rebecca, his eyes cold. What you just did was apply sudden, forceful traction to an unstable surgical site. Do you understand what that means? Rebecca shook her head mutely. It means you may have just undone 3 surgeries. It means your sister may need emergency intervention. It means she could face permanent nerve damage, chronic pain, or paralysis. His voice was perfectly level, perfectly professional, perfectly devastating. And it means what you did constitutes assault. Assault, my mother gasped. That's ridiculous. She's her sister. She was just trying to help. Help. Dr. Brennan's laugh was bitter. By forcibly moving a disabled patient against medical advice? By ignoring her explicit protests? By physically lifting someone with documented spinal instability? He swiped his tablet again. A video played, the baby shower from just moments ago. His phone had been recording. On screen, Rebecca grabbed my arm. I said clearly, "Don't touch me." "Rebecca, seriously, don't." Then the pull. The scream. The collapse. "That's video evidence of assault on a disabled person," Dr. Brennan said quietly. "I recorded it because I've been documenting this family's treatment of Emma for months. This is just the culmination." The room erupted. "You've been recording us? Without permission? That's illegal." "Actually," Dr. Brennan said, raising his voice, "in this state, single-party consent laws mean I can legally record any conversation I'm part of. And as Emma's physician, I'm a mandated reporter. Which means I'm legally required to report suspected abuse or neglect of a vulnerable adult." "Emma's not being abused," my Aunt Carol protested. "We're her family. We love her." "You love her." Dr. Brennan's voice was flat. "You love her so much you've spent 2 years dismissing her medical needs, forcing her into situations that cause pain flare-ups, suggesting her documented disability is psychological, and just now physically assaulted her in an attempt to prove she's faking." He looked around the room, making eye contact with each person. "That's not love. That's medical abuse. And I'm done watching it happen." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Rebecca sank into a chair, her hands covering her face. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I just wanted her to stop. To stop making everything about her. To stop being so broken." "She didn't choose to be broken," Dr. Brennan said, his voice softening slightly. "She was hit by a car. Her spine was shattered. She spent 2 years in surgery, physical therapy, and pain management. And instead of supporting her, you've made her recovery about your convenience." The paramedics arrived in a flurry of professional efficiency. Dr. Brennan briefed them quickly. Post-op spinal fusion, forcible movement, pain level 15, partial loss of sensation in left lower extremity. They brought a backboard and a neck brace. They loaded me with excruciating care. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I heard Rebecca's voice, small and broken. "Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I really didn't know." I didn't respond. I was too focused on the pain radiating through my spine, the terrifying numbness in my left leg, the possibility that everything Dr. Brennan had worked to repair might be destroyed. Dr. Brennan rode with me in the ambulance, holding my hand, monitoring my vitals. "You're going to be okay," he said quietly. "We'll do an MRI, assess the damage, figure out next steps. Pie family. Your family will be dealt with," he said firmly. "Right now, you're my only concern." At the hospital, everything moved fast. CT scan. Neurology consult. The ER attending looked at my films and swore softly. "Dr. Brennan, you need to see this." They huddled around a computer screen, pointing at images I couldn't see from the gurney. Their voices were low, professional, worried. Finally, Dr. Brennan returned to my side. His face was carefully neutral. "Emma, one of the screws shifted. Not displaced completely, but moved enough to destabilize the fusion. We need to go back in. Emergency surgery to reposition the hardware and stabilize the site." "Another surgery," I whispered. "Another surgery," he confirmed. "I'm sorry. If I'd gotten to her faster, if I'd stopped her before she pulled. It's not your fault." My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "It's hers." "Yes," he said quietly. "It is." The surgery took 6 hours. They repositioned the screw, added an additional stabilization rod, and extended the fusion to include L3 for extra support. When I woke up in recovery, my mother was in the waiting room. Not to see me. To talk to Dr. Brennan. I heard her through the thin curtain, her voice tight with anxiety. Doctor, what are the legal ramifications here? Rebecca didn't mean any harm. It was an accident. Surely the police don't need to be involved. Mrs. Harrison, Dr. Brennan said, his voice colder than I'd ever heard it. Your daughter Rebecca physically assaulted a disabled person on video. She ignored explicit verbal refusal. She caused severe injury requiring emergency surgery. The police are already involved because I filed a report. As I'm legally required to do. But she's pregnant, my mother pleaded. The stress of legal action could harm the baby. Emma's stress from being assaulted by her own sister could have left her paralyzed, Dr. Brennan replied. I'm struggling to find sympathy for Rebecca's situation when she created this entire crisis through willful disregard for medical fact. We didn't know it was that serious. Because you didn't listen. His voice cracked slightly. I've spent months trying to educate your family about Emma's condition. I've explained the hardware, the healing timeline, the fragility of the fusion. I attended your family events specifically to provide medical context. And you dismissed every word. Pause. Then, did you know Emma tried to skip her pain medication 3 times in the past 6 months because your family made her feel guilty for taking it? Did you know she pushed herself beyond her limits repeatedly because you called her lazy? Did you know she cried in my office after Thanksgiving because you called her a burden? Silence. That's what I thought, Dr. Brennan said quietly. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. Because Emma's disability was inconvenient for you. And now she's facing a 4th surgery, extended recovery time, and possible permanent nerve damage because your daughter decided to prove a point. What happens now? My mother asked, her voice small. Now Emma recovers. And your family stays away unless she explicitly invites you. Those are my medical orders. If you violate them, I'll pursue a restraining order. You can't keep us from our daughter. I can and will protect my patient from people who have repeatedly caused her harm, even if those people are related to her. Dr. Brennan's footsteps approached the curtain. I suggest you leave, Mrs. Harrison. Visiting hours haven't started and you're not on Emma's approved visitor list. The curtain pulled back. Dr. Brennan looked exhausted, his surgical scrubs rumpled, his eyes shadowed. But when he saw I was awake, his face softened. Hey, how are you feeling? Like I got hit by a car again, I said. Then, because humor was the only thing keeping me from crying, except this time the car was my sister. He smiled faintly. Your sister is currently being interviewed by the police. The video was compelling evidence. Is she going to be arrested? That's up to the DA. But assault on a disabled person is a serious charge, especially with this level of documented injury. He pulled up a chair, sitting heavily. Emma, I need you to understand something. What happened today wasn't your fault. Not remotely. Not even a little bit. I shouldn't have gone, I said. I knew they didn't want me there. I knew. You had every right to attend your sister's baby shower, he interrupted firmly. You have every right to exist in family spaces. Your disability doesn't make you less deserving of inclusion. Their inability to accept your limitations is their failure, not yours. Tears spilled over. She said I was faking. In front of everyone. She said I liked the attention. She was wrong. Dr. Brennan's voice was gentle. And now she knows it. Along with your entire family. They watched you scream in pain. They watched you collapse. They watched paramedics load you onto a backboard. They saw the x-rays. The video. The emergency surgery. He leaned forward. Emma, sometimes people need their noses rubbed in reality before they'll accept it. Your family just got their noses thoroughly rubbed. Whether they learn from it is up to them. But you are done protecting them from the truth. What if they don't change? Then they don't get to be in your life. He said it simply as if it were obvious. Family is supposed to be your safe place. Your support system. If they can't be that, if they actively harm you, then blood relation doesn't obligate you to keep letting them hurt you. Is that your medical opinion? That's my opinion as someone who's watched you suffer for months because you kept trying to make them understand. His voice was rough. Emma, you are one of the strongest people I've ever treated. You've endured 3, now 4, spinal surgeries. Months of physical therapy. Chronic pain. Disability. And you've done it with grace and determination. He stood adjusting my fore. Your family's inability to see that strength is their blindness, not your weakness. Remember that. The legal process moved faster than I expected. The video was damning. Clear audio of me refusing, clear visual of Rebecca's forceful action, clear documentation of the immediate injury. The DA filed charges. Assault on a disabled person, reckless endangerment, and because the injury required surgery, aggravated assault. Rebecca pled down to reckless endangerment with a guilty plea. No jail time because of her pregnancy, but probation, mandatory anger management, and a protection order requiring her to stay 500 feet away from me for 2 years. My mother tried to negotiate a family meeting. Dr. Brennan declined on my behalf. My father sent a letter. I didn't open it. Cousin Jennifer posted on social media about both sides and family healing. I blocked her. What I did do was focus on recovery. This surgery was harder. The nerve damage in my left leg was slow to improve. Physical therapy was excruciating. Some days I wanted to quit. But Dr. Brennan was there for every appointment, every setback, every small victory. Not as my doctor, he transferred my primary care to a colleague to avoid ethical complications, but as something more. A friend. An advocate. Maybe something beyond that, though neither of us addressed it directly. 6 months post-surgery, I took my first steps with a walker. Shaky, painful, but steps. Dr. Brennan recorded it on his phone, then showed me the video. You're amazing, you know that? I'm walking 10 feet, I said. Babies do this. Babies don't do it with a titanium spine and nerve damage. He smiled. Give yourself credit. 8 months post-surgery, Rebecca's baby was born. A girl. 7 pounds 4 ounces. My mother texted me a picture. I didn't respond. I did, however, send a card to the hospital with a gift card for diapers. Not because Rebecca deserved my grace, but because her daughter deserved an aunt who was better than the family who raised us. A year post-surgery, I walked into Dr. Brennan's office without assistance. Just a cane. No walker. No wheelchair. His eyes went wide. Emma. I told you I'd do it, I said. He crossed the room in 3 strides and hugged me. Carefully, mindful of my back, but a real hug. I never doubted you. We stood there for a moment and I realized something. This man had seen me at my absolute worst. Screaming in pain. Crying in frustration. Broken and hurting and barely holding together. And he'd never once treated me like I was too much. Too difficult. Too broken. He just treated me like I was worth fighting for. Dr. Brennan, I said quietly. Weichel. I need to tell you something. What's that? Thank you. For everything. For believing me. For documenting. For being there even when it cost you time and energy and probably caused you headaches with my family. Emma. I'm not finished. I pulled back to look at him. You saved my life. Not just at the baby shower. Every day. By refusing to let me disappear. By insisting I deserved better. By making me believe I was worth fighting for. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You were always worth fighting for. I just helped you see it. Is this appropriate? I asked. Patient-doctor boundaries? You're not my patient anymore, he said softly. Haven't been for months. I transferred your care specifically so I could do this without ethical complications. Do what? He kissed me. Perfect. When we broke apart, I was smiling through tears. So what now? Now you keep healing. Keep getting stronger. Keep proving everyone wrong who said you couldn't. He grinned. And maybe let me take you to dinner. Somewhere wheelchair accessible with comfortable seating where we can leave whenever you need to. That sounds perfect. 18 months post-surgery, I received an email from Rebecca. Subject line, I'm sorry. I didn't read it for 3 days. When I finally opened it, the message was long, detailed, and painful to read. She'd been in therapy. Working through her need to be the center of attention, her inability to share spotlight, her deep-seated resentment of anything that challenged her perfect life narrative. She took full responsibility. Admitted the assault. Acknowledged the harm. Didn't ask for forgiveness, just wanted me to know she understood what she'd done. At the end, I'm teaching my daughter about disability awareness. Making sure she grows up understanding that different bodies have different needs. That accommodations aren't special treatment. They're basic human dignity. I can't undo what I did to you, but I can make sure the next generation is better. I showed the email to Michael over dinner. How do you feel? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to respond. Part of me thinks she doesn't deserve my energy. Both can be true. He reached across the table, taking my hand. You don't owe her forgiveness. But if you want to respond, that's valid too. There's no wrong answer here. I thought about it for a week. Finally, I sent back a single line. Thank you for this. I'm not ready to reconnect, but I appreciate you taking responsibility. I hope therapy continues to help. She responded with just, I understand. I'll be here if you ever are ready. That was 2 years ago. We haven't spoken since. Maybe someday we will. Maybe we won't. What I do know is this. I'm not broken. I'm not faking. I'm not too much or too difficult or too anything. I'm a woman with a disability who survived her family's inability to accept reality. Who had a surgeon willing to fight for her when she couldn't fight for herself. Who learned that chosen family, Michael, my physical therapist, the support group I eventually joined, matters more than blood relation. My spine is titanium and bone and scar tissue. It's not perfect. It never will be. But it's mine. And it's strong enough to carry me forward. That's all that matters.